We all know the creepy porcelain doll from the horror films, the one with the cracked face and sinister smile that haunted our nightmares. But here's what most people don't realize. The real Annabelle doll looks nothing like that Hollywood creation. In fact, the genuine article is far more unsettling, precisely because it appears so ordinary, so innocent. It's a classic Raggedy Ann doll with yarn hair, a red triangular nose, and a cheerful smile stitched across its cloth face. The kind of toy you'd find in any child's bedroom in the 1970s. This is the true story of how that harmless-looking doll became one of the most infamous haunted objects in modern history, a tale that, in many ways, is far more chilling than anything Hollywood could conjure. An innocent gift gone wrong. Our story begins in 1970 in a small apartment somewhere in Connecticut. Donna, a nursing student in her 20s, received what seemed like a thoughtful birthday gift from her mother, a vintage Raggedy Ann doll. It was the kind of nostalgic present that might remind someone of simpler childhood days. Red, yarn hair, button eyes, a white apron over a colorful dress. Donna placed it on her bed as a decorative piece, a touch of whimsy in her modest apartment. Donna shared the apartment with her roommate, Angie, another nursing student. The two young women were practical, educated, and not particularly prone to flights of fancy. They were training to work in healthcare, dealing with the realities of life and death on a daily basis. These weren't people who jumped at shadows or believed in ghost stories without good reason. At first, the doll was exactly what it appeared to be, just a doll. It sat on Donna's bed, legs crossed, arms at its sides, a silent companion. But within weeks, something began to change. The movement begins. It started subtly. Donna and Angie would leave for their nursing classes in the morning, carefully noting where they'd left the doll. They'd return in the evening to find it in a slightly different position. The legs that had been crossed were now uncrossed. The arms that had been at its sides were now positioned differently. Small changes, easy to dismiss as faulty memory. "Did you move the doll?" one would ask the other. "No, I thought you did." But as the days passed, the movements became more pronounced and impossible to rationalize away. The doll would be lying on its side when they distinctly remembered leaving it sitting up. Its position on the bed would shift from one end to the other. These were changes that couldn't be explained by vibrations from traffic or settling over time. Then things escalated dramatically. The doll began appearing in entirely different rooms. They would leave it on Donna's bed in the bedroom before heading to class. When they returned, they'd find the bedroom door closed, something they never didn't. The doll sitting upright on the couch in the living room. No one else had a key to their apartment. The door and windows were always locked. There was simply no rational explanation for how an inanimate cloth doll could transport itself from one room to another. The two women were unnerved but tried to remain logical. Perhaps one of them was sleepwalking. Maybe there was some explanation they were missing. They began testing their theories, carefully documenting the doll's position before leaving and checking it immediately upon return. The results were always the same. The doll moved, and they had no idea how. The messages from the beyond. Just when Donna and Angie thought things couldn't get any stranger, the notes began appearing. They'd come home to find small pieces of parchment paper scattered around the apartment. The messages were written in pencil with childlike handwriting. "Help us," and "Help Lou." The pleas were simple but desperate. The letters formed with the uncertain hand of a young child. Here's what made this even more disturbing. Neither Donna nor Angie owned any parchment paper. They were students living on a budget. They had notebook paper, maybe some stationery, but certainly not parchment. Where were these notes coming from? And more importantly, who was writing them? The Lou mentioned in the messages was a friend of theirs, a young man who had been suspicious of the doll from the moment he first laid eyes on it. Unlike the two women, Lou felt an immediate and visceral sense of wrongness emanating from the Raggedy Ann doll. He couldn't explain it rationally, but every instinct in his body told him that something evil was connected to it. "Get rid of that thing," he'd warned them repeatedly. "There's something wrong with it. I can feel it." But Donna and Angie, trained as caregivers and naturally compassionate, couldn't bring themselves to simply throw the doll away. If something was trying to communicate with them, shouldn't they try to understand it first? Shouldn't they try to help? The situation reached a critical point one evening when Donna returned home from her shift at the hospital. She walked into her bedroom and froze. The Annabelle doll was on her bed. But this time, there was something different, something horrifying. Red liquid, unmistakably resembling blood, stained the doll's chest and the back of its cloth hands. The substance appeared fresh, as if it was seeping from the doll itself. But that was impossible. This was a stuffed fabric doll. It didn't have blood. It didn't have anything inside but cotton stuffing. Donna's hands shook as she picked up the doll, examining it closely. The red liquid was definitely there, clearly visible against the doll's light fabric. This wasn't a trick of the light or imagination. This was real, and it was terrifying. That was the moment Donna and Angie decided they needed professional help. Whatever was happening in their apartment had gone far beyond the realm of what they could handle alone. They needed answers, and they needed them from someone who understood the supernatural. The medium's story, the young women decided to reach out to a medium, someone who said they could chat with spirits. The medium agreed to come over and hold a seance to figure out what was haunting them. During the session, she claimed to connect with the spirit inside the doll. The medium shared a sad story. Before their apartment complex was built, the area was just open land. A 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins lived nearby and tragically died. Her body found in the field where the apartments now stand. According to the medium, Annabelle's spirit had been wandering around, feeling lost and lonely for years. When Donna brought the Raggedy Ann doll home, the spirit saw it as a perfect friend, something innocent and familiar. The medium explained that Annabelle felt safe with Donna and Angie, who were kind nursing students. All she wanted was to feel loved and secure again. She wasn't out to harm anyone. She was just a lost child seeking comfort. The story really tugged at their heartstrings. Here were two caring women, dedicated to helping others. So, despite Lou's growing concerns, Donna and Angie made a big decision. They gave Annabelle permission to stay with them, unknowingly opening a door that should have stayed closed. Lou's nightmare. Lou had never trusted the doll, and his unease only intensified after Donna and Angie gave Annabelle permission to stay. His warnings became more urgent, his discomfort more palpable whenever he was near the thing. One night, Lou stayed over at the apartment, sleeping on the couch. In the middle of the night, he woke up thought he woke up. He found himself completely paralyzed, unable to move a muscle, unable to cry out. In the dim light filtering through the windows, he saw something that filled him with primal terror. The Annabelle doll was moving. It wasn't being carried or thrown. It was moving on its own, crawling up his legs with deliberate, purposeful movement. Lou tried desperately to move, to scream, to do anything, but his body refused to obey. He could only watch in horror as the doll climbed onto his chest. Then it began to strangle him. The pressure on his throat was real, crushing. He couldn't breathe. The button eyes of the doll stared into his face as it squeezed the life from him. Lou was certain he was going to die right there on that couch, killed by a children's toy, while his friends slept just feet away. Then, suddenly, he jolted awake. He was gasping for air, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. The doll was back on the chair where it had been when he fell asleep. But the terror he felt was unlike anything he'd experienced from any nightmare. It felt too real, too vivid. The evil presence he'd sensed from the doll was stronger than ever. Lou was convinced it hadn't been just a dream. Something had attacked him. The physical attack. A few days after Lou's nightmare, he and Angie were chilling in the apartment, planning a road trip. The place was super quiet, that eerie kind of silence where every little sound feels loud. Then they heard it, rustling from Donna's bedroom. It sounded like someone was in there, searching through stuff, but no one else was supposed to be home. The door was locked, and no one had a key. Lou's first thought, intruder. Maybe someone broke in. He motioned for Angie to hang back and quietly crept to the bedroom door, pressing his ear against it to listen. The sounds kept coming, definitely movement. The room was empty. Not quite empty, though. The Annabelle doll, which had been on the bed, was now tossed in the corner, like it didn't matter. But there was no one else around, no intruder, no explanation for the sounds they both heard. Lou stood in the doorway, trying to wrap his head around what he was seeing or not seeing. Ignoring every instinct to run, he stepped into the room and slowly approached the doll. As he bent down, a wave of dread hit him. It was overwhelming, like someone was right behind him, breathing down his neck. Lou spun around, fists raised, ready to defend himself. Nothing. The room was still empty. Then the pain hit. A searing, burning sensation ripped across Lou's chest. He looked down to find his shirt torn open, revealing 7 deep claw marks, bloody scratches that looked like they were made by something with sharp talons. These weren't just minor scratches. They were hot to the touch, burning like something was pressed against his skin. Lou stumbled back, nearly falling. Angie rushed in when she heard his cry, and when she saw the blood and scratches, she screamed. These weren't just surface wounds. They had appeared in seconds, inflicted by something neither of them had seen. What was even creepier, those bloody claw marks healed at lightning speed. Within just 2 days, they vanished completely, as if they'd never existed. It felt like the attack happened on some otherworldly level, leaving only a brief mark on Lou's body. This was the last straw. Whatever they were facing, it wasn't just a lonely little girl. They were dealing with something truly malevolent, something dangerous. Enter the Warrens, desperate and terrified. Donna finally reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators who were already gaining notoriety for their work with haunted objects and demonic cases. If anyone could help them, it would be the Warrens. Ed and Lorraine arrived at the apartment and immediately began their investigation. They interviewed all 3 young people separately and together, documenting every incident in meticulous detail. They examined the doll, the apartment, and the circumstances surrounding the haunting. After completing his investigation, Ed Warren delivered his verdict, and it was far worse than any of them had imagined. "There is no Annabelle Higgins," Ed told them bluntly. "There never was." He explained that the medium had been deceived or had deceived them. The story about the little girl who died on the property was a fabrication, a manipulation. Spirits of deceased humans, Ed emphasized, do not have the power or ability to possess inanimate objects. Human spirits can influence living people, can make their presence known, but they cannot inhabit dolls or furniture or houses. That's not how human spirits work. What they were dealing with was something far more sinister, an inhuman spirit, a demon. This entity, Ed explained, had never actually possessed the doll itself. The doll was merely a conduit, a tool, a channel through which it could interact with the physical world. The demon had been manipulating the doll, moving it, creating the illusion of a haunting to achieve its true goal. And that goal was never to possess a Raggedy Ann doll. The demon wanted a human host. "It's been testing you," Ed told them, "looking for weaknesses, searching for a way in." The entire story about being a lost little girl was a manipulation tactic. By presenting itself as something innocent and sympathetic, the demon had accomplished exactly what it needed, an invitation. When Donna and Angie gave Annabelle permission to stay with them, they had unknowingly invited a demonic entity into their home and their lives. They'd given it a foothold, opened a door that should never be opened. The bloody claw marks on Lou's chest weren't just an attack, they were a declaration. The demon was announcing its presence, demonstrating its power, showing them what it was capable of. Ed believed the entity's ultimate target was likely Donna herself. She was the one who'd received the doll, the one who'd given it permission to stay. In the demon's twisted logic, she had issued an invitation that it fully intended to accept. The exorcism. The Warrens knew an exorcism was essential, but not on the doll itself. You can't exorcise an object, right? They needed to cleanse the apartment where the demon was hanging out. So, Ed and Lorraine brought in an Episcopal priest to bless the place, going room by room and sealing every door and window to kick out the demon. At Donna's request, the Warrens took the doll with them, planning to keep it locked away in their collection of occult items. But the demon, it wasn't done just yet. The journey home, the drive back should have been a breeze, just a few hours on roads they knew well. But the moment they hit the road with the doll, everything went haywire. The power steering kept failing, making the car feel like a wild beast to control, and the brakes. They chose the worst times to give out sharp turns, busy intersections, you name it. Ed was wrestling with the wheel as the car swerved like it was being pushed by unseen hands. Lorraine, in the passenger seat, felt a heavy, dark presence in the car, like a third passenger radiating pure rage. The temperature inside was all over the place, and the air felt thick, almost suffocating. After a particularly scary moment when the brakes completely failed, Ed pulled over, fed up. He grabbed a bottle of holy water from his bag, his trusty companion on these wild cases. Stepping out, he splashed the Annabelle doll with holy water, making the sign of the cross and reciting protective prayers. Instantly, the oppressive feeling lifted. The car started behaving normally again, as if whatever was haunting them got the hint. This doll wasn't going to be its toy anymore. The final resting place, even in the Warrens' home, the Annabelle doll was still up to no good. It would float off surfaces and show up in different rooms, even when they'd left it in one spot. Ed and Lorraine often found it in places they definitely hadn't put it, Realizing this wasn't just a prank, Ed knew they had to take serious action. He had a custom glass case, made a strong enclosure that was more than just a barrier. It was inscribed with the Lord's Prayer and other protective symbols. The glass was blessed, designed to keep the doll in and the demon out, stopping it from using the doll as a way to mess with the living. Today, the real Annabelle sits in that special case at the Warrens Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. A sign warns, "Warning, positively do not open," and it's not just for show. Over the years, some visitors who mocked the doll ended up facing dire consequences. The Warrens always insisted that Annabelle is one of the most dangerous items they've ever encountered. Not just a doll, but a doorway to something truly sinister. The lesson, the true story of Annabelle, teaches us something that Hollywood often gets wrong in its pursuit of visual scares. The most terrifying things don't always look frightening. Evil doesn't always announce itself with fangs and claws and monsters under the bed. Sometimes it comes wrapped in something innocent, something familiar, something that seems harmless. A child's toy with button eyes and a stitched smile. Something that seems like it needs our help, our compassion, our permission to stay. The demon that attached itself to that Raggedy Ann doll understood human nature perfectly. It knew that Donna and Angie, as nursing students and caregivers, would be moved by a story of a lost, lonely child. It knew exactly which buttons to push, exactly how to present itself to get what it wanted. An invitation, a welcome, a door opened from the inside. That's the creepiest lesson of all, right? The entity didn't just barge in, it was invited in, like a guest pretending to need saving. Ed Warren always said the scariest hauntings happen when you let something in. Once you give that permission, closing the door becomes way harder. So, the next time you see a spooky porcelain doll in a movie, remember, the real Annabelle is way more unsettling because she looks so normal. She's a reminder to be careful about what we welcome into our lives, and to think twice about forces we don't fully get. The cheerful Raggedy Ann doll still sits in her sealed case, a warning about the real dangers hiding behind innocent faces. And somewhere, something waits, watching through those button eyes, hoping someone will ignore the warnings and open that case. Demons, as the Warrens found out, are super patient.